Thank you very much, Alan. I think, as I listened to that presentation, it perhaps is one of the most stirring pieces reminding us of the strength of regionalism, something that extends back over 50 years in the Caribbean, back to the Federation, and the accomplishments that we've had by working together. Our next speaker is Dr. Amalia Del Riego, a national of the Dominican Republic, but I also consider a fellow Trinidadian in many ways. She's currently the Senior Advisor for PAHO WHO for its HIV-STI Caribbean office, with the responsibility to coordinate the implementation of PAHO's HIV-STI work in the Caribbean. She has 20 years of experience in public health with an emphasis on HIV and STIs, and health systems and services development. And she's also, too, very passionate about the need for us in this region to eliminate mother-to-child transmission. Amalia, good morning. Pleasure. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Ernest, and good morning, everyone. I'm actually, I was born in a very small village of the central north in the Dominican Republic, and I am proudly a Caribbean woman, short but not shy. And I think the panel discussion really is a very challenging one, and one that we will need to manage with a lot of non-diplomacy, because it is going to be one that needs to highlight, based on our successes, also tough questions about what we should not continue doing. And I think Alan's previous presentation was a very good introduction to my presentation. And the other thing that I want to say is that the reflection about sustainability, and I'm going to share with you, is really a product of a lot of discussions with many of you, many people that for the last year and a half have been exploring this question of sustainability. And I will recall a year and a half ago, or maybe more, sitting down at the airport waiting time, when one colleague asked me, how is it that we're going to make it? And what will be the key to sustainability? And my answer was, when we will find the answer when the money runs out. And it may be a paradoxical answer, and I was probably tired, and it was not politically correct. But I was really coming from another meeting, very frustrated of seeing the amazing amount of financial resources available to the region, and when there were still so many challenges in identifying the effective use of those resources. And therefore, I will say that my presentation will try to take three different perspectives. One is, this region is a diverse region, so the Caribbean cannot have one approach. One size will not fit all. We discussed that in the PANCAP AGM, and we all know what that means. The other thing is that the look into the future is really, and after a very long journey, is really at this moment, and I will take the brilliant presentation yesterday in the first plenary from Dr. Anthony Fauci about where we are in this journey. And two key things that he mentioned, and he ended his presentation was, well, we know what we have to do. We need to prevent new infections, and we need to ensure that we decrease the pool of HIV-infected individuals who can transmit the virus. And therefore, the question here is not longer how much we need to do, how much we have done. We know we have done a lot. We know we have great achievements. But the question right now is, at what cost, how much more we need to do, at what cost, and who will pick up the bill? And therefore, when Alan mentioned that sustainability, when we talk to discuss about sustainability, we need to say sustainability of what? I would like to say that for the Caribbean region, and my reference will be very on the ground to our region, the sustainability discussion needs to really be framed in the what. And the what that I think in this region we are saying is this region really can have the vision of HIV-free generations. And is that an impossible dream? I will say no. I will say there is clear evidence of successes, and I will not repeat what we have been saying, but I want to highlight elimination of MTCT is really feasible. We have actually several countries that are, at this moment, either have achieved elimination targets, and the Prime Minister mentioned in his opening remarks that the Bahamas didn't have any reported case of MTCT 2010, but we know that Barbados have not had any reported case in the last 4 years. We know that some of the small island states like Anguilla, St. Martin have no reported cases. So we have a quite significant amount of countries that are either at this moment have eliminated, and we need to validate that, or will be eliminating MTCT. And we know that we also have countries that lag behind. We have seen a significant amount in the reduction of mortality. We have seen, I will not say dramatic decrease of new reported infections, but some countries are getting there. Some other countries are, we see the stabilization of new infections. And we have also seen that all countries in this region, all countries have scaled up significantly testing, treatment, and care. So that in the context of the Caribbean, I think the question that Alan placed before on why are a little bit clear. I think we know that we have really implemented effective interventions. And I think one element that we all recognize in terms of the sub-region is that of the political commitment. In this region, we have had really incredible political commitment to the fight of HIV/AIDS. And with all of that to be the starting point in this journey today to the future, then I will challenge to say that our vision for sustainability needs to be the sustainability of an HIV-free or HIV-free generations in the Caribbean. And I would like to also challenge to have some reflections about what is really exactly linked to those successes. And there have been quite a bit of analysis and evaluations conducted in the last 3-4 years in the region by PAHO, by PEPFAR, USAID, by the World Bank. And these evaluations really are clearly indicating that a lot of the successes can be linked to a sound public health approach. And I would like to say a sound public health approach with the elements of understanding of a sound public health approach. Health in this region is recognized as a fundamental human right. I don't think there is any country in the Caribbean that will not have health as a fundamental human right. A sound public health approach that really has looked at effective programs and services. A public health approach that have really ensured social participation, community involvement in addressing the social determinants. And I think Alan mentioned some of them: gender, equality, poverty, stigma and discrimination. And we need to act in this region. We saw that in the presentation yesterday too by Dr. Jean Pape. Natural disasters as social determinants. I think we all recognize also that there have been a very strong public health leadership related to these successes. And I would like to mention that it is not by coincidence that we can see now some of the interventions getting results, because in the very early onset of the epidemic, all countries established national AIDS programs in the ministries of health. And by 1987, I think all of the countries had a very vibrant national AIDS program. And the national AIDS program that at that moment revolutionized public health. Because I do recall in the Dominican Republic when the first interventions for sex workers and men having sex with men were developed by the National AIDS Program with a lot of criticism and challenges. So that the approach at that time was that of a public health leadership. And we have seen also the regional response that have quite a bit of the public health leadership element. And we have seen the recognition of many individuals in this PANCAP AGM, also in the previous one, Bilali Camara, Dr. Perry Gomez, Dr. Carol Jacob, Professor Figueroa, Suzette, and I will say we have many more that are there and will deserve a prize, and we actually will have to include many, many prizes. I met yesterday Sister Claire from the Bahamas, who is a public health leader that have been really working very hard from the very onset of the epidemic in establishing sound support programs in the Bahamas. She deserves a Nobel Prize. And I would like to highlight that we have all acknowledged and UNAIDS have recognized PANCAP as a best practice in this region, but let's see what really have moved PANCAP so far. And I will challenge to say that it's really the public health leadership that have moved PANCAP to this point. We have seen how the ministers of health have taken a proactive role in advocating to the highest levels of government, in crafting the NASO declaration, in establishing the PANCAP, and in managing the PANCAP for 10 years successfully, and with the ability of implementing a strategy for involvement, multi-sectoriality, collaboration with civil society, and that is a sound public health leadership. Now, having said that, what are really the issues that can hamper sustainability? And what we have seen in the different evaluations and doing the literature review is that we have some great inefficiencies in the way that we are doing business. We have a very high cost of producing the results. And a lot of the high cost, in our perspective, is really due to a great extent to the verticality of programs and services and the duplication of functions that we see overall. We have issues of governance with very complex structures of the national response, and I was hoping that Professor Theodore was going to make his presentation before me, because I was going to say that one of the elements that he will put forward and he shared with us in the last PANCAP AGM about the whys that we need to be asking ourselves is, why is it that some countries in this region will have 40% of administrative costs for the response, when some other countries will have less than 10% of administrative costs for the response? And we have some answers for that. And we know that when we look at the differences, one very important element coming out is the complex structures to manage the national response. We have issues of oversight, normative function that are not fully realized. We have issues of public-private partnerships. We have a lot of things happening in the private sector, I will say with very little regulation, but also with partnerships that are not totally materialized. And then we go to the issue of financing. And some countries still have a very high dependency on external resources. That will really hamper sustainability. If we are really aiming to get there, we will need to solve that issue. And the issue for financing is that cannot be taken for HIV in isolation of what is financing of healthcare. And if we think that we are going to resolve the financing of HIV services and the response without addressing overall financing for healthcare, we are totally wrong. We also know that at this moment, we have important barriers for access to care by key populations, and perhaps a lot of that related to stigma and discrimination. If we want to reach those infected individuals that we need to early intervene and provide treatment for prevention, then we will need to address the access element. And we have seen also in all of the countries that maybe this is where the challenge is, because we have done very good in scaling up services for the general population, but our key populations, and specifically those that are more stigmatized, men having sex with men, sex workers, and I will even say the youth, have really extreme difficulties in accessing health services. And I want to put the youth because we have seen also that in many countries there is a big discrepancy in terms of the age of legal consent for sex and the age of, at which you can actually access health services without consent from your parents. I want to also mention that an important element is that of quality of care and treatment, because if we are to reach there, we need to really pay attention to prevention of HIV drug resistance. And I think Alan made a good reference to that. We not only need to put people on treatment, we need to prevent that. We will move to expensive regimes. We need to prevent that. The transmission of HIV will be that of resistant HIV. And then I will also say that another element will be the effectiveness of the prevention interventions. The findings in the evaluations really are very striking in terms of a lot of activities happening in prevention that we cannot necessarily link to a specific impact. And therefore, that is really a challenge for sustainability. And then I would like to really reflect on three specific areas that are key for sustainability in this region. One is the area of service delivery, and I will expand on that. The second is we must improve efficiency. And the third is the financing and allocation of resources, because we will need maybe not more money. So in terms of service delivery, three specific interventions. One is the early detection, care, and treatment need to be expanded, and specifically we need to deliver we need to develop service delivery models that can actually be reaching key populations, and in particular develop public and private partnerships. We need to really pay more attention to evidence-based prevention interventions, and I will challenge to say that we need to operationalize the concept of combination prevention, and we do need to start to talk about treatment as prevention, despite the fact that we know treatment costs may be high. The question is not only how much is the cost for treatment, but the question is how much will cost to have people that need treatment and are not in treatment. And I think the other element will be, in terms of service delivery, the prevention of HIV drug resistance. We need to improve efficiency. And for improved efficiency, our reflections are that we do need to move to integration. We need to strengthen our primary care, and for that, we need to take a health system strengthening approach. That is not news for us. The question is how we're going to do it. We need to simplify coordination and management structures, and we need to really be more on target with strategic information. We really need to change some of the ways of getting strategic information. Our surveillance needs to tell us what is happening with the new infections. Yes, we need to know about prevalence, but what is happening with the new infections, where the new infections are occurring, what the characteristics of that population, because it's that information what will guide strategically our programs and interventions. And we need to really do some more focused operations research to ask some of the whys, this or that. In terms of financing, I think when we talk about evidence-based, I will say that we also need evidence-based allocation of resources. We need to do more analysis that will be cost-benefit. And I am not a health economist, but the cost-benefit analysis will be extremely important in that in this time. We also need to relook at investment for the external resources in the next 5 years, because we all know that we still have a significant amount of external resources available to this region, but we also know that that significant amount of resources will dry soon, and that maybe in the next 5 years we will not have that luxury. And then we will need to start addressing from now the aspects related to national health financing, to include the financing of HIV. So is this an impossible dream? I think no. I think it is a dream that we should pursue. I think that we have clear, important gains that we need to sustain. I think there is an overall recognition of the need for strategic interventions now, and those are reducing costs, improving efficiency, and having tough allocation choices. We need to decide what of what we are doing we need to stop, and that is recognized too. And I think, last but not least, we have as a region the know-how, we have the passion, we are very proud people, we are not shy, and if you want to know that, go to the Miami airport. We were just commenting that. You will find the Trinis and the Dominicans speaking loud. And I think we have all of our countries a strong national pride, and we have a collective pride of being Caribbean. And therefore, without going into political or commercial announcements, yes, we can. Let's do it. Thank you very much.
Amalia just said to me, "Si se puede." Yes, we can. I'm just going to hold on to a couple points from that last presentation that I think should stay in everyone's mind. And that is the whole question of looking very seriously at efficiencies. The counterside of that is being able to acknowledge the inefficiencies that we currently have in our programs. And also, too, to have a look, again, at the allocation choices we're making. Where are we putting money? The counterside of that is, where do we not put money? Where do we need to put money if we are to have successful prevention and treatment programs? The next presenter, Dr. Carl Theodore, is going to further this discussion in looking at sustainability. looking very much at it from a fiscal point. What are some of the fiscal options? What do governments need to do? What has the region done previously? And Professor Theodore is the director of the Center of Health Economics at the University of the West Indies. He's also professor of economics in the Department of Economics, where he has taught health economics and generations of students across this region for many years. The work of the Health Economics Unit, which is one of the unique institutions within this region, has contributed to an improved understanding of the economic impact of HIV in the Caribbean. He was one of the people leading one of the first studies in this region over a decade ago, looking at the economic impact of HIV in the Caribbean. He's now responsible for training many young health economics and their understanding of the HIV/AIDS response. He's led a variety of research initiatives looking at HIV and health, but also too looking more broadly at economic issues of health and development in the Caribbean. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Carl Theodore.